A dog can smell your sadness before you even realize you're sad. Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. Long before you wipe a tear from your eye, before your voice cracks, before your friends notice anything is wrong, your dog already knows. In fact, scientific research suggests dogs can detect tiny chemical changes in your body when your emotions shift. Your stress hormones rise, your breathing pattern changes, your posture subtly tightens, and somehow, without a single word being spoken, the dog sitting quietly beside you understands something is different. But here's the real question that fascinates scientists. Are dogs simply reacting to cues? Or are they actually reading human emotions the way another human would? To answer that, we have to go back thousands of years, to a partnership between two species that quietly rewired both of our brains. It was past midnight when I realized something was wrong. The house was quiet, but my mind wasn't. Thoughts moved in circles. Worries about work, family, the endless list of things people carry silently in their heads. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. Across the room, my dog had been asleep for hours, curled into a tight circle, breathing slowly. But within seconds of just a small, almost invisible change in the rhythm of the room, he lifted his head. No barking, no sudden movement, just quiet attention. He stood up slowly, walked across the room, and pressed his head gently against my knee. No command, no call, no obvious signal, just understanding. At the time, it felt mysterious, almost magical. But what feels like magic is often biology we don't yet fully understand. And dogs might be one of the most extraordinary examples of that hidden science. The relationship between humans and dogs began at least 15,000 to 30,000 years ago, making dogs the oldest domesticated animal species. Archaeological evidence from sites like Bonn Oberkassel in Germany, where a human and a dog were buried together roughly 14,000 years ago, shows that this bond was already deeply emotional. But domestication wasn't just about companionship. It was a process that literally reshaped the canine brain. Over thousands of generations, wolves that were better at reading human behavior, our gestures, attention, tone, and emotion, had a survival advantage. They could cooperate with humans more effectively. This evolutionary pressure created something remarkable. Dogs became the most socially attuned animals to humans on Earth, even more than our closest genetic relatives, chimpanzees. Psychologist Brian Hare at Duke University demonstrated this in a famous experiment. Researchers placed food under one of two cups and pointed to the correct one. Chimpanzees struggled with the task. Dogs succeeded almost immediately. Why? Because dogs instinctively interpret human social cues, something wolves and even primates struggle to do. But pointing is only the surface. The deeper question is whether dogs understand how we feel. And science says they probably do. One of the clearest demonstrations of emotional recognition came from a 2016 study at the University of Veterinary Medicine, Vienna. Researchers showed dogs pairs of photographs, one happy human face and one angry face. The dogs quickly learned to identify which expression meant happy and which meant angry. But the truly surprising discovery was this. The dogs could recognize emotions even when they had only seen half the face before, either the eyes or the mouth. This means dogs weren't simply memorizing pictures. They were interpreting emotional patterns in human facial expressions. Lead researcher Ludwig Huber concluded that dogs likely possess a mental representation of human emotions. In other words, they understand that certain facial expressions correspond to emotional states. But facial recognition is only one layer. Dogs also listen to something humans often overlook: your voice. Your voice carries emotional maps. Think about how humans speak to dogs. Higher pitch when we're excited, softer tone when comforting them, sharp tone when correcting behavior. Dogs are constantly mapping these patterns. A fascinating study published in Current Biology in 2016 examined how dogs process human voices. Neuroscientist Attila Andix and his team used fMRI brain scans on awake dogs. Yes, dogs calmly lying inside MRI machines. The results were stunning. Dogs have a voice-sensitive region in their brain, located in a similar area to the human auditory cortex. Even more fascinating, their brains responded differently to happy voices versus neutral ones. This means dogs aren't just hearing sounds, they are processing emotional tone. Your dog may not understand every word you say, but they absolutely understand how you say it. If you've ever locked eyes with a dog and felt an overwhelming wave of affection, there's a biological reason. It involves the hormone oxytocin. Often called the love hormone, oxytocin is released in humans during hugs, eye contact, bonding moments, parent-child interactions. But in 2015, a groundbreaking study by Takefumi Kikusui at Azabu University discovered something remarkable. When dogs and their owners gaze into each other's eyes, both species experience a surge of oxytocin. In the study, researchers measured hormone levels before and after interactions. The longer the dog and human looked at each other, the higher their oxytocin levels rose. This is the exact same hormonal feedback loop found between mothers and infants. In evolutionary terms, dogs may have tapped directly into the biological system that humans use for family bonding, which might explain why dogs often feel less like pets and more like members of the family. But the most astonishing ability dogs possess might not involve sight or sound. It's smell. Dogs have around 300 million olfactory receptors. Humans have roughly 6 million. Their sense of smell is estimated to be 10,000 to 100,000 times stronger than ours. This allows dogs to detect subtle chemical changes in the human body. When you feel emotions like fear or stress, your body releases hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals produce tiny scent signatures, invisible to us, but not to dogs. In 2018, researchers at Queen's University Belfast demonstrated that dogs could identify the scent of human stress from sweat samples alone. Even when the samples were presented in containers, dogs consistently reacted differently to stress-related scents compared to neutral ones. In other words, your dog can smell your anxiety before your brain even fully processes it. Another remarkable behavior scientists have observed is emotional contagion. This occurs when one individual unconsciously mirrors another's emotional state. Humans do this constantly. When someone laughs, we laugh. When someone cries, we feel sadness. Dogs appear capable of this too. Psychologist Deborah Custance at Goldsmiths University of London conducted an experiment where humans pretended to cry or hum. Dogs approached the crying humans far more frequently, even when the person was a stranger. Many dogs showed comforting behaviors: nudging, licking, leaning against the person. These are classic social soothing behaviors, meaning dogs may not just detect emotions, they may feel compelled to respond to them. From an evolutionary perspective, dogs are unique. Unlike most animals that evolved primarily within their own species' social systems, dogs evolved within ours. Over thousands of years, humans unintentionally selected for dogs that were better at reading human attention, interpreting gestures, responding to emotions, forming attachments. This process is called co-evolution. Our species shaped each other. Dogs became experts in human communication, and humans became emotionally attached to them in ways rarely seen between species. Some researchers even suggest dogs understand human social signals at the level of a 2-year-old child. That's not because dogs are simple. It's because they evolved specifically to understand us. Think about the moments people remember most with their dogs. Not the tricks, not the obedience training, but the quiet, unexplained moments. The time your dog sat beside you during grief, the way they sensed illness before diagnosis, the strange ability they have to show up exactly when you need comfort. Science may eventually explain every mechanism behind these behaviors: hormones, neural pathways, chemical signals, evolutionary adaptations. But explanations don't diminish the wonder. If anything, they deepen it. Because the truth might be even more beautiful than the mystery. Thousands of years ago, two species made an unspoken agreement. Humans offered shelter, food, and protection. Dogs offered loyalty, companionship, and cooperation. But somewhere along that long evolutionary road, something deeper emerged. A shared emotional language. One that doesn't require words. Just a glance. A sigh. A subtle change in posture. And a dog quietly crossing the room to sit beside you. Your dog may never understand your job, your bills, your deadlines, or the complicated worries that fill your mind at night. But they understand something even more fundamental: how you feel. And in a world where humans often struggle to truly listen to one another, a creature from another species somehow learned how. Maybe that's why dogs feel so special to us, not because they speak our language, but because they learn to understand our hearts. If you love learning the hidden science behind animals and human behavior, like the video and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more fascinating stories.